Hey there, welcome to another video tutorial. In this video, we are going to learn exception handling, debugging, and object-oriented programming. Let's get started. So here we can start by using the exception handling and the debugging. So here is this console application. So the first I want to show you the exception handling styles in the Delphi programming language. So here we can create variables x and y, so integers, and we can assign x for 10 and y for 0. So then we can write try and enter, and here we got finally. I want to show the style of this exception handling in Object Pascal in Delphi. So delete it and you can write accept, and here we can write on e and exception. This exception gets to any kind of exceptions to do, and we can write something here. For example, e dot message, error message, and here we can write another error class name. We can get error class name here. So in the try except block, we can write the code we want to execute, and in the except end block, here this is the code gets executed if an exception occurs in the above block. So we can write simple code here, ln x divide y, and we can run it. Here, as you can see, we got division by 0 error message, and error e div by 0, it's a error class name. Or we can change its exception keyword for e div by 0, and here we can delete it and write divide by 0 error occurred, and we can check it here, divide by 0 error occurred. We can change it to 10 maybe, and you don't see this error here. This is result 1. Delphi also provides an alternative path to the exception wrapper, the finally clause. Instead of being called when an exception occurs, the finally clause is always called, and we can use try finally for creating and using the objects in our program. For example, we can type try, and here you can see try finally. For instance, you can create some objects in this place. For example, object 1 equals t object 1 dot create self, and in the try final block you can use object for any kind of actions, and in the finally block you can write object 1 dot free. Finally end block, you can free up the memory from this object, or you can type object 1 equals nil, and it will free up the memory. Also, we can use raising exceptions in our Delphi programs. So we can't only raise exceptions at our own choosing, but we can create exception classes to manage them. And this kind of processing is somewhat beyond the basics, being more appropriate to the large applications, enormous applications, especially those using many large modules, large units. And these modules may generate their own exception types. For example, you can write if y equals 0, then raise exception dot create, and here you can write the message to this raise exception. For example, and here some test, or here we got syntax error. Else can print out message y, and you can see here 10. Then we can change it to 0, and here raising exception, and terminates the console application. So here we got a simple example for debugging As you can see, we got S, C, O, D variables, string, char, and byte, and here we're assigning the values to these variables. Here we got for in the loop, and for C it's a char, and in S it's a string. And here we can check the C values using the char intent function. And if there's O letter, we can increment the O variable for 1. And else if here for checking the D and incrementing D. And we are showing the results. So in this line, you can simply toggle the breakpoint here, and you can see all of the iterations on the debug mode. Here, this debugging started. In the view and the debug window, we got breakpoints, call stacked, watches, local variables, threads, event log. Also, we got CPU windows and FPU. You can see all of the CPU codes here. You can open the run menu, and you can just step over or trace into or trace to next source. Here 9. You can see all of the actions they're doing. You can see this C to E. We're checking value of D, it's 0 here. So here you can see we got build configurations and target platforms. In the build configurations, we have checked the debug mode, and in this mode your executable file will be more large and more enormous size. So we can open this the show in Explorer. So here this is our exception handling debugging exe file, executable file. As you can see, this size of this application is more than 1 megabyte. And if we check this release mode, all of the build configuration informations and other things will be removed from your executable file, and your executable file will be more smaller than that one. As you can see, we got in the release folder, the ID generated the release mode of this application, and its size only 139 kilobytes. That's pretty cool. So object-oriented programming. First of all, I want to talk about the procedural programming. In the procedural programming, sometimes requirements will be changed, and it might be hard to implement the new features that were not planned in the beginning. And in the procedural programming, the code blocks gets bigger and bigger. Changes in code introduce many bugs, or it gets too hard to maintain the code. So then we got object-oriented programming. In the object-oriented programming concepts, you can break down the requirements into objects with responsibilities and not into functional steps, and embraces the change of requirements by minimizing the changes in code. And you can think about the object interactions instead of the program control flow. And the object-oriented programming, it's a completely different programming paradigm. So why we should use the object-oriented programming concepts? If you use the object-oriented programming concepts, you can modularize the software development just like any other engineering discipline to make the software projects more manageable and predictable, and better maintainability, and also you can reuse the code and prevent reinvention of the wheel every time. So features of object-oriented programming. In the object-oriented programming, it emphasizes on data rather than on procedure, and the programs are divided into what are known as the objects, and functions that operate on data of an object are tied together in a data structure. Objects may communicate with each other through functions, methods, procedures, and also you can add new data and methods to your code. Encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. So encapsulation is the integration of data and operations into a class, and encapsulation is hiding the functional details from the object calling it. Inheritance is a mechanism in object-oriented programming to design two or more entities that are different but share many common features. For example, fields or methods. And this feature common to all the classes are defined into superclass, and the classes that inherit common features from the superclass are called subclasses. So why we should use inheritance? If you use inheritance, classes often share capabilities, and also you can improve the maintainability, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. So polymorphism. Polymorphism indicates the meaning of the many forms. Polymorphism presents a method that can have many definitions. Polymorphism is related to overloading and overriding. So overriding indicates the subclass and the parent class has the same methods, parameters, and return type. Abstraction. Abstraction is the process of modeling only relevant features, and you can hide unnecessary details which are irrelevant for current purpose. If you use the abstraction, you can reduce the complexity in your applications, and abstraction provides the freedom to defer the implementation decisions by avoiding commitments to details. So I want to recommend one book for you to learn the object-oriented programming and Object Pascal or Delphi new features. So here we got embarcatoracademy.com, and we got here the Object Pascal Handbook by Marco Cantu. This complete guide helps to learn the Delphi programming language deeply. And in the part 2 and the part 3, you can see the object-oriented programming topics, inheritance, objects, manipulating classes, or other things. In the coming video tutorial, we will learn some components that we need in Windows development with Visual Component Library.